Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Food Science Fridays. Today, we are continuing our discussion of frozen desserts. On last week's episode, we talked a lot about the structure and texture of frozen desserts, as well as how crystal formation contributes to the texture of desserts. Our efforts last week resulted in a low-fat, no-added sugar peach frozen yogurt made from just 3 ingredients. It was great until I left in the freezer for too long and it turned into a solid chunk of peach ice. Alright, so why did my peach frozen yogurt on the last episode turn into a giant popsicle when I had it in the freezer for a week? And why doesn't normal ice cream become a giant block of ice when you stick it back in the freezer? The answer is something called freezing point depression. Sound familiar, anyone? I learned this way back in Gen Chem. This is the idea that the freezing point of a solution is lower than the freezing point of the pure solvent. You probably know that pure water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. But what happens when you add salt? You mix in a solute, something that is soluble in water like salt or sugar, alcohol, the freezing point will drop. And the more solute you add, the more that drop in freezing point, to a certain extent. In below freezing temps, salt is often used to keep roads free from ice, so our cars can stay on the road. Vodka, gin, and other hard alcohol doesn't freeze in the freezer. That's because 80 proof vodka is 60% water and 40% ethyl alcohol, while pure ethanol freezes at about negative 114 degrees Celsius. Vodka freezes somewhere in between at approximately negative 24 degrees Celsius. So, now that we know what freezing point depression is, what can we do to prevent our ice cream from becoming a block of ice like happened on our last episode? We can add alcohol, sugar, or salt, or all of the above. If you want to follow along and do this experiment yourself at home, you can find more information on the Food Science Fridays blog. But for now, let's get started on making some no-churn frozen custard. I highly recommend, if you have one, you use a food scale, especially because getting these ratios is kind of important for this type of experiment. So why no-churn ice cream? Well, honestly, your girl's got a lot of kitchen gadgets, but an ice cream maker isn't one of them. Anyways, I found out relatively recently through @CCC's Curious Kitchen Instagram. She has a great blog as well. You should check it out. It has a lot of good food science on it. Anyways, I found out that you can do a no-churn ice cream without an ice cream maker. So these were all removed from the freezer at the same time. As you can see, the one that's just cream is pretty much rock solid. Maybe a little less, but not really very edible at this point in time. This one, which is the just sugar, pretty easy to get your spoon in. Pretty nice ice cream consistency. This one has sugar and salt. It's even a little bit more melty on the top and easier to break into than the just sugar one. And then the sugar, salt, and bourbon. Honestly, I thought this would be a little bit softer, but it's actually probably just as soft as the sugar and salt one. So, yum.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.